hiding risks. So they make small. They have no volatility, most of the time. And once every 10 or so years, guess what? They lose everything they made, and then they come to the taxpayer for support. They have the setup for people to, give them monetary policy to help them and all that stuff. And meanwhile, they keep their bonuses because it's a very efficient strategy where you make, everybody think you're smart. And then when you lose, guess what? It was a bad environment, okay? It was only a quarter when you lost, but visibly you've lost more than you ever made. Banks lost in 2008 more than the history of banking. And of course, they paid themselves a lot of money, they didn't return it to us. So this is a payoff that's very similar to a short an option. You sell an option, you have very little return. You earn some money, but then something happens, you have unlimited losses or very large losses. That payoff resembles the fragile. The opposite of that payoff would be something that's long volatility. So when I went, to try to explain this, people weren't understanding that the opposite of fragile isn't robust.
When banks look steady, that's usually the moment to stay awake. The quiet years, the smooth profits, the confident smiles, they can all work like a warm blanket that keeps everyone from noticing the cracks underneath. People see calm water and assume the whole system is solid. Then, one small jolt arrives, and everything falls apart at lightning speed. The public gets stuck with the damage, while the people who shaped the problem walk away untouched, sometimes richer than before. The confidence was never real. It was just a cover placed over something fragile. And as Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the risk thinker and author, points out, this kind of false stability isn't limited to finance. We make the same mistake in life, trusting routines, jobs, and relationships simply because they look stable from the outside. The big question is, if everything you trust were shaken tomorrow, what would stay standing long enough to guide you forward? Let's take you back to Nassim Taleb's explosive lecture to gain more insight. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for additional in-depth content. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the video.
I'll give you my sort of biographical story and my obsession with what I call fat tails. To explain fat tails, what you have here is the performance of an option portfolio, the variation in price of an option portfolio, daily variation, over 57 years. Okay, so out of the money options that are remote, it's about 12,000 days, something like that, 14,000 days. And as you can see, there's a big spike. For that portfolio, that day represents, depends on what you've been doing, between 80 and 99% of your total lifetime variation. If you're an option trader, one day in your life should represent 98% of the variation if you're involved in remote payoffs. This, in other words, is what I call fat tails. And this is, of course, if you don't get that day right, you're not going to get anything right. And it's not predictable. Okay, they tell you it's predictable. If you go to the finance building, they think it's predictable. If you go to the economics building, they're convinced it's predictable. It is not predictable. So that's the problem, that they are events that have a huge impact, and we can't tell ahead of time when they're going to come, and we have no idea about their structure. And people fool themselves thinking they have an idea about the structure. So you have to understand what domains are affected by these large deviations. And also, I don't know if someone here is from Brooklyn, but in Brooklyn they say that you should make lemonade every time someone gives you a lemon. So you got to make lemonade out of it. So this is the idea that we have. There's a huge amount of these events, the rare event representing a large share of the pie. Now you live here at the epicenter of rare events, okay? Google represent this spike in its own business, right? Microsoft was Microsoft. It's still Microsoft, but you know, it was even more Microsoft than it is today. There was 50,000 computer companies, and it had more than half the sales in that segment. Okay. If you take the stock market over the past 100 years, a lot of companies joined, a lot of companies left. There are about 12,000 surviving companies that are listed. Of these 12,000 companies, how many companies represent half the capitalization? What do you think? Sorry? Well, when I was trading, some years it was 50 to 100. Some years it was 300 to 400. There's no structure. Okay. Another example, for example, is the book business. So I don't know if you know about the book business. There are 1 million manuscripts in the English language on the market today by people who call themselves writers, but typically they work in the US. They work for Starbucks. In Europe, they do other things. They work for the government. So they call themselves writers. They're novels. Of the 1 million novels, literary novels, about 20,000 will be published. Of these, half the sales will come from how many books? Sorry?
20% maybe?
20%, no, between 5 and 15. Some years less than 5. Okay, it's not 20%. It's really, we are in what I call extremistan. So let me give you an idea of what is extremistan. If I can figure out how to work this computer. If you imagine that you have a convention here and you bring in a random selection of people from the planet, 1,000 people, bring them to Stanford, nice weather, you know, this is a great way to convince people to come, and put them on a scale, all right? You weigh them, you add to that sample the heaviest person you can find on the planet who can still be called a person. How much of the total will that person represent? Sorry? Okay, so it's 3 times the average, as we say in finance, 30 basis points, all right? 0.3%. And if you move from 1,000 to 10,000, how much will that person represent? Nothing, 3 basis points. Okay, so the maximum you can get will affect your average very little. This is commonly known as the law of what? Large numbers. About everything you do that's statistically based is based on that law. That as your sample becomes larger, no deviation is going to mess up things for you. I consume 800,000 calories a year. Not a single day is going to make me, double my weight, all right, thank God. But unfortunately, not a single day will make me lose half my weight unless, I have surgery, all right? So the problem is that, but in finance, can you lose half your fortune in one day? Of course. When I became a pit trader, I walked in, there's something called new member, a badge, means rookie. So you get abused by old traders who are bored, want to give someone advice for life, so they grab you. So one guy grabbed me, hey, come over here, kiddo. He said, okay, I showed up. He said, that was before this event, incidentally. He said, listen, you see the guy over there? I said, yes. He said, his name is Ed. I said, yes. He said, at the time, it was a lot of money. He made 7 million in 7 years. I said, yes. He said, he lost them all in 7 seconds. Okay, kid. I said, kiddo, now you can go, all right? That was his advice, that you can, that you're in extremistan, the reasoning is different. So everything's moved by extremes in economic life. And visibly, you're here for that, to understand that point. And we're going to take it to its conclusion. In extremistan, okay, things are unpredictable. In mediocristan, you can predict things, all right? So that's point number 1. Unpredictability is a problem of course, in the real world, unlike the textbooks. I guess you've seen this before. You recognize this item? This is commonly known as what? A wheel. Very good. When was it discovered? Sorry, a long time ago. How long ago? About at least 6,000 years ago, all right? Babylonian technology, all right? So this is technology. So let's see, moving from this technology to this technology. You guys are too young to remember the days when it had to carry our luggage because it didn't have wheel. How long did it take? 6,000 years to this discovery, right? Okay? So you realize that there is unpredictability. Not only that, but now we're going to look at something else, that there are domains that are entirely dominated by the unpredictable. Medical discovery, for example, entirely dominated by the rare event. They don't know it. And we're going to talk now about luck with a caveat. It's not really luck, it's a function of luck. How to exploit luck by which you get more upside than downside of luck. So, and the idea is, you know what this is, windmill. There are two approaches in life. The first one is that you hear that there are going to be winds, and you know, the conservative attitude is to build what, a wall to protect oneself from the wind. A better attitude is to build windmills if you hear the word. Okay, so the idea is to milk uncertainty and try to exploit disorder. But before getting there, we're going to have a little excursion into what I call fragility. There's something interesting that I discovered that took me about 21 years to figure out. 21 years, I was an option trader for 21 years, and then realized something I knew unconsciously, but only became conscious of it one day as I was looking at this, you know, patently ugly teacup, right? We have a definition of fragility, very simply, connected to what we saw about options. And let me propose the following. Is fragile what doesn't like volatility? If this teacup is on a table and there's an earthquake, will it benefit from it? No, you say. Very simple. It wants fragile because it wants calm and predictability. It's harmed by disorder. You guys have earthquakes in California. It doesn't want an earthquake. It doesn't want to be in California. It would rather be in New York, you see? Very simply. And now from this concept of fragility, we're going to get into innovation and optionality. So this, the way I see it, is short optionality. And let's look at what short optionality is. This is a payoff of a financial structure that is very vulnerable to phone calls at night. When in the middle of the night, the chairman of the company gets a phone call saying, oh, there's an event. So this payoff, this package, you know, you make or lose some money, but typically the losses, all right, are very large and the profits are very small.
One wild day can outweigh decades of calm. That's the brutal math of fat tails, the rare events that rewrite everything. In markets, a single spike can account for 98% of your lifetime volatility. Miss it, and nothing else matters. It's the same story across industries. Millions write books, only a handful sell. Thousands build companies, but one becomes Google. Most of life plays out quietly until the outlier shows up and tips the scale. According to Taleb, there's no warning, no pattern, no fairness. But if you learn to position yourself for those wild swings, that chaos becomes a feature, not a bug.
The opposite of that payoff would be something that's long volatility. So when I went, to try to explain this, people weren't understanding that the opposite of fragile isn't robust. It's not solid. It is not the opposite of fragile. The opposite of this is not the straight line. It's not a payoff, where you end up unharmed. You agree? If I'm sending a package to, say, Mongolia Interior, all right, and the package is fragile, what do I write on it? Fragile, all right, okay. If the package is robust, what do you write on it? Nothing. So if the package wants volatility, wants to be harmed, wants something, wants stressors, wants disorder, wants earthquakes, all right? It's not the same as robust. It would be something on which you'd write, please mishandle, I am antifragile. It's the opposite of fragile. So the opposite of fragile is not something that is robust or something solid. It's something that wants disorder. And guess what? There's something called the cluster. And if you like one, you like them all. Uncertainty, variability, imperfect, incomplete knowledge, chance, chaos. These, if you benefit from all of these, you are classified as antifragile, and it's very similar to someone who owns an option. So we're going to talk about, how you guys can milk randomness, because that's what you do in California, right? And we're going to be a little more technical and a little more rigorous in the way we analyze an option payoff. So there are things now, let's view the world in three categories. There's the fragile, like this computer. You pour water on it, it's gone, right? You understand? And now we have to give a lecture maneuvering with a mouse and maneuvering so it doesn't blow up, and hoping it doesn't blow up before the end of this lecture, right? That's a fragile, okay? That's the definition. There's a robust, you hammer it, nothing happens, but doesn't benefit from it. And there's the anti-fragile that likes disorder and benefits from disorder and benefits from error. So it happened that now we can identify the fragile. There's a method to figure out what is fragile, and there's a method to figure out what is anti-fragile. How? Very simple. Something related to convexity. Let me explain what I mean by convexity or concavity, okay? If I jump, I am fragile, my body is fragile, okay? If I jump 10 meters, what would happen to me? You guys are engineers and smart people, you would know. What would happen to me? Sorry? I'd die, I'm going to say it. This is, you die. Your hospital here won't be any good, right? You die when you fall 10 meters. But if I fall 10 times 1 meter, what would happen to me? Nothing. It means that every additional meter harms me more than the previous one. No? Everything fragile, we saw it in time series space. But if you look at it as a response, everything fragile has to have accelerating harm at some point. And we can actually show that everything that has accelerating harm doesn't like volatility. And the opposite of it is something that has accelerating benefits. The nonlinear is harmed more. You see this accelerating harm is harmed a lot more than the linear. And visibly, the linear, for small variation, show more response than the nonlinear. This is easier to understand if you look at it this way. You saw that the harm I get from hitting the floor, okay, it has to be nonlinear for me to be harmed at 10 meters, but not to be harmed at 10 times 1 meter. You agree? Okay. It has to be that way because walking, from on campus would kill you otherwise. Because being harmed by that large, but you get the, if the thing were linear, you'd be killed. So harm for anything that has not been broken has to be in a nonlinear. The coffee cup sees thousands of hits at very small intensity, like very small pounds per inch hits. It doesn't really care. But one big hit and it breaks. Fragile has to be nonlinear. And this is what's central about this idea. It has to be accelerating and harm. Another example is, look at the world around us, okay? If we were linear to harm, we've blown up a long time ago. The world has 3 to 4 million earthquakes every year, low intensity on a Geiger scale, you see? It would be like a Fukushima every few minutes if the harm were linear, but it's not. You see? Yeah. So this is quite central because now we can figure out whether it's fragile from nonlinear and look at its opposite. Simply, we have the following. If you have more gain, say if the market goes up 10%, you make more money than if the market went down 10%, then you lose. If the market went down 10%, you're convex, you see? And otherwise you're concave. The best way to figure it out is with this. This is convex, this is concave. If you want to remember, this is convex, and this is concave. Okay? So if you look at the payoff of the convex, you make more, then you lose. You're here, you make more than you lose here for an equivalent one. Or you make more the second time than you make the first time. If the market goes up 20%, you make more than twice if the market went up 10%. If you are in that situation, then you like volatility. If you're in that situation, then you are like benefiting from randomness, what I call the disorder brothers, uncertainty, all these things. Let me take one or two questions here before continuing. Trial and error is an option. Why? Look at trial and error as something like this. You lose, and once in a while you make a lot. You see? Exactly like the opposite of the coffee cup, like what we saw before, something that gains from disorder and gains from black swans. That's trial and error, okay? You're in the business of trial and error. Someone who does trial and error versus someone who's directed ideas is going to perform extremely well when you have randomness. And what we're going to see is why, when you have trial and error, you outperform someone who knows, because convexity matters a lot more than knowledge. You don't know what's going on, you keep trial and error, and you're rational enough not to make mistakes by doing the same trial twice, or having a result and giving it up. So we can generate rules from this. And I was thinking of 7 rules because people like the number 7. Look here, 7 money rules for life. There's here 7 rules for success, all right? 7 rules for weight loss, all right? You can do that as well. And 7 rules for change management, okay? So I also said, okay, I'm going to come up with my 7 rules. But then I realized you guys will not remember the 7 rules as you leave this place. So what you have to understand is how an option works. And once you understand how an option works, then you understand one rule, how to be in a position where you are anti-fragile and benefit from randomness. It's a big misnomer that trial and error, or luck, benefiting from luck, all right, is a good, the word trial and error is a misnomer. We should not say trial and error. We should say convex function of randomness, or trial with small error. Okay, trial and error, the error has to be small. So the anti-fragile, you're in an environment where the errors are small and of small cost, and the gains are large and unlimited. And then you are positioned properly towards the black swan, unpredictability, all these things. This is what's central. And you can model it exactly like an option. And an option increases monstrously in value when there is volatility. Now, there's some good news and bad news, is that people don't quite understand that optionality concept. In this book 4, I'm attacking the notion that we got to where we are because of the superb intellect and brilliance of the ancients.
Here's the paradox most people never grasp. The goal in life, business, and decision-making isn't to avoid chaos. It's about designing your environment in a way that actually benefits you. Fragile things shatter under pressure. Robust things survive. But the rare, exceptional setups? They grow stronger. They need tension, randomness, and shocks. That's what defines the anti-fragile. Think of it like this. When a fragile system faces volatility, it breaks. A robust system endures. But an anti-fragile system turns that same volatility into fuel. It transforms stress into strength, randomness into reward. And unlike the illusion of control most people chase, this approach aligns with how the real world actually works. Markets don't move in straight lines. Outcomes are not evenly distributed. One single trade, idea, or moment can rewrite everything. Trial and error becomes not just a method, but a strategy. You don't need to be right every time, just positioned correctly. 9 failed attempts that cost little, followed by 1 massive win, is how breakthrough success often looks. That's convexity in action. This is why optionality beats prediction. You can't foresee black swans, but you can benefit from them. The secret lies in the setup. Design systems where the downside is limited and the upside is unbounded, where randomness isn't a threat, but a tool. So stop trying to control every variable. Instead, build habits, businesses, portfolios, and lives that can bend, absorb, and grow from surprises. Surround yourself with positive exposure and eliminate hidden fragility. The future is wild, uneven, and lopsided. Good. That's your edge. Because in a world that punishes certainty and rewards adaptability, anti-fragility isn't just a concept, it's survival. And more than that, it's a strategy for thriving when others fall apart. As we wrap up, if one lucky break could outweigh years of effort, how would you position yourself today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video and hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.